Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Donald, and this is the Talamanca Review. And it's 9 p.m. on the 31st of March, and I'm going to do another cast. The other one was just sort of a public notice. And I just want to talk a little bit tonight about the difference between detachment and apathy. And I think this is a pretty important topic. So I'm going to look up each word to begin, as is my custom. Detachment. Detachment definition.
This is the definition of detachment, the state of being objective or aloof.
Okay, so detachment is the state of being objective or aloof. I don't really think that that's correct, actually. It's really kind of amazing how bad language is being maligned. They rewrite these things like every, I don't know, 10 years or so. Let's try the Cambridge Dictionary. Okay, so they've got noun, military, detachment. Okay, let me try this again because I'm detached definition. Separate or disconnected is the primary definition, and they have it as an adjective. Number 2 is aloof and objective. This is a detached observer of his own actions. Okay, so people also ask, what does it mean to be detached? A detached person does not show any emotional involvement or interest in a situation. She seemed a little detached, as if her mind were on other things. And that's not quite it either. So you might wonder, like, how is it that I can come to know a word and then look it up in the dictionary and say that the dictionary's not right? Like, how can the dictionary not be right? Right? How could Bruce be right and the dictionary is wrong? Well, it has to do with a lifetime involvement with a word. And detachment is a word that comes up quite a bit in spiritual instruction, in the discourses of dead masters of all paths. It comes up again and again and again and again. Um, I don't know if you've ever noticed that in your studies or as you look at the spiritual reality, but detachment is a very important thing um, for a spiritual person. Okay, now there's a slight subtlety to what I'm trying to explain tonight, so I got to make sure I get this right. Now we're going to look up apathy. Apathy definition.
This is the definition of apathy, lack of interest, enthusiasm, or concern.
Lack of interest, enthusiasm, or concern. Okay, so I'm going to have to do my own definition of both of these words. Have you ever heard the expression in spiritual instruction, be of the world, or sorry, be in the world, but not of the world? Okay, it means that you go through this life and you live it, and you live it with all of the responsibilities of a normal person, but at the same time, you're not as connected to the outcome as other people. Or a better way of putting it, because you can still be very connected to the outcome. No matter what happens, you're going to be okay. Okay? No single event is going to destroy you, because you've reached a state of perception, a state of existence, a state of being, where you understand enough and you've experienced enough that the events of the world are not as cataclysmic for you as other people. They're just not. I hit that point, probably a couple decades ago, in my late 30s. I became more and more detached. Doesn't mean that you don't live life, doesn't mean that you don't do things with enthusiasm, love, and commitment. I mean, anybody who's read my books knows that I wrote those books with enthusiasm and commitment and the sincere belief that they're going to open doors for people, they're going to confirm things for people, they're going to pass energy to people, and that they're going to be an experience for people. Even though it's only a book you're reading, the experience of reading the book is as real or as meaningful as any physical experience that you've ever had. Whether it be, I don't know, going to an amusement park or playing 18 holes of golf, but the books are an experience, and they're an experience because I put so much energy into them. And I construct them in such a way that they're going to sit with you for the rest of your lives. And they're going to become a permanent part of you. And that's a bold statement, and I'm comfortable with it, and I'm not walking it back in the least. Okay? And yet, when I write the books, I put everything I am into them, and the moment I'm done, they're done. There's no attachment, I'm detached. It was just something that I had to do. Okay? And that's what I mean when I say detachment. And so as I go through life and I look at the world, I put everything I have into it, because I don't know everything that the Creator's doing. I don't know everything that the Lords of Karma are doing. My station is that of a man, a human being, man or woman. And my station in life is to live this life, be a good husband, good father, good writer, good neighbor, and put everything I have into all of these things and not hold back. But at the same time, part of me is always in spirit. This is an affectation that comes about after years of meditating. Part of you is always in spirit. And as you keep meditating, the older you get, more and more of you goes into spirit. And spirit is the inner world. You can call it the dream world, the awakened imagination. Do not confuse what I'm saying with being in your head or daydreaming. That's not it. Spirit is connected to the stream of events in your life. It's not separate from them. It's like you're living in 3 dimensions at the same time, sometimes more. That's what I mean by being detached. Whereas some people, when they live life and they have no consciousness of spirit, everything they do is of grave consequence to them, because everything is absolute and ultimate. You only get one life. No, wrong. I really want to make this company work. Okay, put everything you have into it. If it doesn't work, then ask yourself why it didn't work. Try again if you want to. Don't get negative. Don't get dejected. Just put everything you can into everything you do, but stay detached. Don't allow your happiness to rest on the outcome of anything. Okay? So I guess what I'm giving is a formula for being a good human being in terms of our responsibility to the world and to the society that we live in. Now, the latter I find very difficult to do, and I'll tell you why. I made up my mind, in the early 2000s, that the society I lived in was completely corrupt, almost irredeemably corrupt, and that the only thing that could change it was an awakening in people, that the people came to see more, and that the people were not made complacent with the small treats they were given. Okay? In a sense, you could probably make the case, or I could probably make the case, that everybody is in the process of having their spirit bought. Okay? Or I was going to say selling their souls, the old adage of selling your soul to the devil, but you can't really sell your soul because you don't have a soul. You are a soul that has a personality. And the personality, as I've said numerous times, is just something that evolves in the lifetime as a response to your triumphs, your tragedies, your afflictions, your traumas. That's what your personality is. Aspects of it will persevere on the other side. Maybe not for an indeterminate period of time, but in the initial stages of separation from the body, there are many aspects of your psyche that persist. Okay? Now, apathy is not given a shit. Okay? And there's a big difference between detachment and apathy. And something very subtle has happened to us. So subtle that not many people have picked up on it. The event itself is not subtle. It's actually quite epic. Quite epic. And I don't think that there's ever been a generation of man like this. And when I say man, I mean humanity. And for my female listeners, please don't think me a chauvinist, okay? It's just a language I'm comfortable with. But I mean men and women, I mean humanity. And I'm comfortable with that language, and I think that that language is spiritually correct. So I'm not going to change, just like I'm not going to change my pronouns for people who think they've changed their gender or their biological identity, which is impossible. Okay? They could dig up a transgender body in 1,000 years and they would know by the bone structure whether it was male or female. You're born one or the other. Sorry to hurt people's feelings who've transitioned or who are transitioning. I don't like to hurt people's feelings. I don't. Not necessarily a people pleaser. I won't lie to make you feel good, but in real life, I'll generally just keep my mouth shut rather than say what I think is the truth. But this is my podcast, and I'm talking to you who have the right to turn it off and stop listening to me. So I'm just going to be myself. Something rather epic has happened to humanity in the first world. Now, you pick this up a number of ways. Um, there are a number of ways of deducing or adducing this. Apologies, I just had to check a message there. Lovely message, thank you. The person who gave me the message will know They don't know I'm recording a podcast. Now, what's happened is we're not connecting with reality anymore. And we're not operating in a spiritual detachment that's beneficial. We're operating in apathy. You know, there's always been this, how would I put this? This American archetype evolved. I should maybe an American character. I think that an archetype comes from the cosmology. I don't want to step on Carl Jung's toes here or Joseph Campbell's. But there was a character that evolved in American culture. You've seen it many, many times. You can see it in the early characters defined in Hollywood. You can see it repeated in some way, shape, or form every decade. Okay? The best example that comes to mind is Han Solo from the first Star Wars. What's in it for me? Why should I fight for the resistance against the Empire? I'm a smuggler and a pirate. This is not my war. But he gets dragged in by his heart, right? And the Millennium Falcon ends up giving Han Solo the opportunity to make the kill shot on the Death Star. And it's a big surprise because everybody had given up on Han Solo. You see that character and variations of it everywhere. You see it in Alan Ladd's portrayal of Shane in the like-named movie from 1955, which is the archetypal black hat, white hat confrontation. Brilliant performance by Jack Palance as the hired gunfighter Wilson. Just an absolutely brilliant movie. In fact, let's take a quick look at it.
I came to get your offer, Riker.
I'm not dealing with you. Where to start?
You're dealing with me, Riker.
I got no quarrel with you, Shane. You can walk out now and no hard feeling.
What's your offer, Riker?
To you, not a thing.
It's too bad.
Too bad.
Yeah, you've lived too long. Your kind of days are over.
My days? What about yours, gunfighter?
The difference is I know it.
All right. So we'll all turn in our 6 guns to the bartender. We'll all start hoeing spots. Is that it?
Not quite yet. We haven't heard from your friend here.
I wouldn't push too far if I were you.
Fight ain't with you.
It ain't with me, Wilson.
No, it ain't, Shane.
I wouldn't pull on Wilson, Shane. Will, you're a witness to this.
So you're Jack Wilson.
What's that mean to you, Shane?
I've heard about you.
What have you heard, Shane?
I've heard that you're a low-down Yankee liar.
Prove it.
And just like that, life ends. 1955, one of my favorite movies of all time, Shane with Alan Ladd. I think that's the first role ever for Jack Palance. Just a masterful role by Jack Palance. And again, you get that idea of the solitary drifter reconnecting with the community. In this case, this isn't Shane's fight, and he's defending a family that is being run off their land by cattle barons who hire guns like Wilson to intimidate and ultimately murder the people who won't leave their land. A little bit of the Russian oligarch system in the 19th century American frontier. And as I said earlier, Han Solo was another example. It really is the journey of the hero, where the hero is outside of any kind of a transaction that would be needed by them because they haven't committed to anything. Like Han Solo, he hasn't committed to any side. Shane isn't a farmer, he's just passing through. And the point I'm making here is that these are men who are detached, Han Solo and Shane, but they're not apathetic. And my point in this podcast tonight is that something has happened to us where a very disturbing apathy has crept in. And here, apathy may be synonymous with cowardice. We are the grandchildren and great-grandchildren of the men and women who shaped the 20th century and made it North America's century. And we have become apathetic, incapable of moral outrage, no matter what's done, right in front of us. The release of the John F. Kennedy murder information, clearly implicating Israel. Ben Shapiro openly asking on his Daily Wire show, Ben Shapiro, the Mossad agent, who cares who killed JFK? Well, for those of us who are doing the forensic history, we care, Ben, because it was the beginning of our apathy. Now, There's a thing that governments can do where they shut off information. They don't tell you the information doesn't exist. They'll tell you, we have the information. Now, this should have all been settled with the Warren Commission, but it wasn't. Everybody knew the Warren Commission was a farce, and I'm not doing a JFK show, I promise you. Please stay with me. But there was something about the blowing off of John Fitzgerald Kennedy's head, captured on Super 8 film, basically a snuff film. A snuff film is a film where somebody is killed. They knew they were going to kill that guy. They knew they were going to kill JFK, and they allowed it to be filmed. So it's a snuff film. And there was a moral outrage. And that moral outrage lasted a long time. You can see it in Oliver Stone. It's what compelled him to make the movie JFK with Kevin Costner. And of course, all of this is coming from the Jack Cruz interview I watched earlier today. It was put up about 5 days ago. I'll try and put it in the notes of today's show when I put it up on Substack. So you can watch it for yourself. It's over 2 hours. So it's a bit of a commitment. But the moral outrage was there, and the moral outrage over Kennedy's murder lasted for decades. It's almost like a Western version of Bruce and Brandon Lee. Right? I suppose you could say that was a Western story too, because they were both killed in the West. No, Bruce Lee died in Hong Kong, but they made their name in the West. And I say it's similar because both John F. Kennedy Sr. and John F. Kennedy Jr. Both died in mysterious ways. Some people say JFK Jr. is alive. I don't know about that. I do not know about that. I mean, it's a Carrie Cassidy thing, but to be honest with you, Carrie Cassidy can be a bit loony at times. A little hysterical, if you will. Now, that moral outrage lasted for decades. 73, 83, 93. Long, long time it lasted. 2003, 2013. They were supposed to release the files after 50 years, which would have been in the first Trump term or the second Obama term. JFK was killed in 1963. So 73, 83, 93, 2003, 2013 would have been the maturation on that information bond. And they sat on it again. They weren't quite ready to pour that barrel of whiskey. Had not distilled long enough, had not aged long enough. Some people thought Trump was going to release the information in his first term. He didn't. He waited until 2024. So really 6 decades in a year, 60 years instead of 50. And it's all just out there now. And I'd like to say that people are detached to it, which would mean that they're not letting it hurt them emotionally, but they do remember the responsibility to act on it. But they're not. They're apathetic. And apathy is a soul deadening thing. Even during World War II, when the Japanese invaded China, the abbots at the Taoist monasteries where they practiced martial arts and the Buddhist monasteries where they practiced martial arts gave all of the initiates and denizens of those monasteries the choice. You can stay here through the war, and you can continue your study, your meditation, and your pursuit of enlightenment, or you can go home and defend your families and your villages. And about half them left and half them stayed. It's the perfect example of detachment and apathy. They could not be apathetic, even though they had spent a lifetime studying detachment, because meditation is literally the study of detachment. They could not be apathetic. They turned out to be some of the most formidable fighters in World War II, and there are legendary stories of Taoist martial arts masters squaring off with Japanese karate masters. And these engagements were sacrosanct, meaning that the old world laws were followed. So the Japanese colonel would say to his men, if this man beats me in hand-to-hand combat, he is to be allowed to walk out of here. You cannot shoot him. This is a fair fight. As is something particular to Eastern culture. We don't really do stuff like this in the West. But again, it's an excellent example of a study between, a contrast between detachment and apathy. We are witnessing the wholesale massacre of a people in the Palestinians. I know they're not perfect. I know the Hamas charter calls for the destruction of Israel. I get it, right? Not too hard to get. They're far from a perfect people. They are a kind of recreational martyrdom and a form of pay-per-view or HBO for a smug, entitled, and arrogant Arabic elite who expect the despondent, scattered, and dispossessed Palestinian people to follow the Quranic edict of martyrdom when this Saudi, UAE, and Dubai elite trillionaire class in the Arabic world would not sacrifice their 28th wife to this fight, or one of their sons. It is an absolute shit show. I get it. I'm not clearly taking any sides here. Okay? The Israelis have a position, and their position is valid. And there's a little bit too much of the hate the Jew going around. And I do agree that a lot of this campus kaffir scarf shit is ridiculous. If you really believe that, go over there and fight, you gutless fucking punks. Put it up or shut up. Like Shane walking into that bar. You can't you can't be apathetic? Well, then go and do what you gotta do. I get it. I get the frustration of the good Israeli people, and there are many good Israeli people. But this is a wholesale slaughter now. It's a snuff film. We're literally making a global snuff film on social media and watching these people be slaughtered, and apathy is everywhere. Apathy is everywhere. And I don't know why that is. I don't know how we could be the descendants as Canadians of the men who raided Dieppe, the descendants of Australian men who fought and died in Gallipoli, the descendants of the Americans who died in Normandy. I don't know how we became so apathetic. I have a few ideas. I think it has to do with how we live. I think it has to do with how they keep this perfect balance between overwork to the point of distraction, where you can't commit to social activism just to pay your bills, to keep your wife or your husband happy, your children fed. I get it. I'm not stupid. It's Netflix, it's HBO Max, it's Amazon Prime, it's Pornhub, it's the epidemic of marijuana smoking. But somehow we've lost something here. And I realized something today, that if we don't stand up soon and abandon our apathy, we can stay detached. Okay? We can stay detached. Remember, this whole podcast is about the difference between detachment and apathy. Horrible dictionary definitions. Go with mine. We can stay detached, but we cannot be apathetic. We have to stand up. We have to stand up globally and demand a resolution to what happened to John F. Kennedy, John Fitzgerald Kennedy. And it's not because I'm culturally aligned with him because he's a Celt and he was raised Catholic, even though he was about as Catholic as me. You know, he shagged everything that moved, man. He was banging Marilyn Monroe. Sorry, a moment of sexual impropriety in my language there. I do apologize. This is more of a solemn podcast tonight. But I can't help being Bruce, you know. I'm just, who else am I going to be? You want me to invent somebody? It's what he represented for all of America and the autonomy and direction America was supposed to go in. And in killing him, they killed a direction that would have completely changed our timeline. Of that, I'm convinced. And then a few short years later, they took out Robert Kennedy Sr., because he was going to go into federal politics. He was going to run for president, and he probably would have won. By the way, if you want to look at the present state of the Democrats and the Republicans, this was a time when the Democrats stood up. This is a time when the Democrats were the pivotal force in American politics. This is a time when the Democrats were what the Republican Party represents now in some ways under Trump. A redirection, standing up for principle, making sacrifices. And what a speech giver. Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country. He started the Peace Corps. And they gunned him down like a dog and laughed about it over brandy and cigars. And it bothers me. You know what else bothered me in a similar way? When Yitzhak Rabin was assassinated by the Orthodox Jew in Israel. That, to me, I remember that day so clearly. Okay? He was also a great man. I probably can't speak his name without being laughed at in the company of the Likud Nazis now who run Israel. But Yitzhak Rabin was a great man, and he was gunned down. And it marked a pivotal time in the journey of Israel. It marked the first time that a Jew killed a Jew in Israel for political reasons. And John F. Kennedy marked the first time in modern history that an intelligence agency killed its own president. Now, what I want to tell you tonight is that you can stay detached. I'm detached. After this podcast, I'll probably go do some kung fu. I might do another hour of meditation tonight. I've already done 2 hours today. But I'm in zone, and I love meditating when I'm in zone because it's very rich. I'll probably enjoy some TV. But I am not apathetic to what's happening in this world. And apathy is a soul killer. And apathy in this world is damnation in the next. Damnation's not what you think in the next world. The next world has ways of punishing you that are undocumented in our scriptures. And you can only understand them by first-hand experience. I'm not saying I've spent copious amounts of time over there or I've had near-death experiences, but those of you who've listened to this podcast regularly will know that I've had enough experiences to stitch it together. Whether it be the ghost story I told on this podcast, a simple ghost story with my girlfriend's dead brother, 7 years. What did that teach me? There's an astrology even to death. What I went through with my father in writing The Devil in Us after he had been dead for 11 months when I started the book, and how writing that book changed his fate on the other side. They have ways of punishing you on the other side. It's, how would I put this? Things you don't do here that you should have done that are very important for the soul or the true being will haunt you and linger on the other side like a fart in an elevator. And you'll wish you had done something. You will be, if I could only go back and do something. Apathy is one of those things. We do not want to be apathetic now. And the reason we're so apathetic is we've been programmed this way. Excuse me, you've been programmed this way. They try to program me, but they can't. I do too much qigong, I do too much meditation. I'm too rebellious by nature, and ultimately when I came up here, it represented the breaking of all of their programming because only a madman would do what I did. It's not that foreigners don't live the way I live, but they do it after 10 or 15 years of living in Costa Rica in various towns and villages and mastering Spanish, and they certainly don't do it in the province I live in. And then after those 10 or 15 years, then they move up to the mountains with the campesinos. I started up here. So there's no programming here. And I'm not going to have any regrets on the other side because I've done everything my heart has told me to do in this life. Would it surprise you if I told you that many of the funeral rituals in the cultures of this world are afterlife economies where the living, through a prolonged period of mourning ritual, are creating energetic credit for the dead person on the other side, and the dead person on the other side can purchase better accommodation and better situation with that credit or that currency? Would that strike you as strange? Because that's how it works. It's always good to think well of the dead, because we'll all be there one day, and we'll all be looking back at the living, and we'll all be saying, if only I had, if only. What have you heard, Shane? I heard you're a low-down Yankee liar. Prove it. I don't know how many ways I can say the same thing over and over again. Detachment is good, apathy is bad. Detachment can allow you to live in spirit but fulfill your obligation to the world. Apathy will kill your obligation to the world. An obligation unfulfilled is a haunting in the other world. We say that ghosts haunt this world. The truth is, most of the haunting is on the other side. I'm Bruce McDonald, and this has been a rather melancholic Talamanca review.